All right, good morning. I appreciate that, Carl, jumping on here this morning. We'll get out. We'll talk about some of the other stocks that have been put in here, but let's go to Capital One here, as this is ticking higher. It's about 30 cents over the $70 mark. With the way that it ran up right into the close, pushed above 70. We don't want to stay in this too long. This morning we've given it a second for the spreads to come in. What do I mean by that? Well, the bid and the ask. And with this stock, the bid and the ask in the morning typically is around 7 to 10 cents. So we are going to pop out of this with it having broken our stop. And I'm just going to send out the order here. And I'm just going to do a market. You can probably get filled better than what I'll get filled here with Capital One by setting a limit order in there. But we're out there. It looks like $1.28. $1.28. Okay, you'll notice I'm logging into chat here on a little bit of a different name. Okay, so we sold the COF at 128. Are we selling it at a good spot here? Do I think Capital One goes lower? I really do. I think we see Capital One trade down here for a little bit, but overall the risk of it jumping up into the 71 and a half, and with this market just busting up and even pushing into 72, grows tremendously with it breaking 70. So we are out. Most common email I got last night was, Jeff, Capital One closed above 70. Why didn't you get out? The simple answer is at 3:40 Eastern, Capital One wasn't above 70. We will not send a trade out in the last 20 minutes. If those of you who are in it want to get out in that situation, feel free to, but we do not send out a trade in the last 20 minutes simply because most of our members are not able to get that and react to that in a timely manner. All right, so that wraps up Capital One here. We will be looking at this again. In fact, we see COF break 69 for the upcoming 100K challenge. I will look at it from a put perspective here. Okay, John, you asked a great question. PBCT, why is the bid ask spread so far apart? Okay, well, bid ask spreads, especially when it comes to options, okay, are typically they're typically quite high in the morning. Okay, you see the call options here, a 20-cent spread on an 80-cent on an 80-cent ask price. So you're talking about a 25% spread here. In the morning, the bid asks are much higher. Okay, they are typically much higher. And then on stocks where the volume isn't as great on the options, the bid ask spreads are going to be higher. Okay, even you come in here to December, these options just opened up a little while ago, but or a few weeks ago. But look at the volume here today. These aren't exactly hotly traded options there. Okay. Yeah, newbie, you ask a great question. In COF, we saw our position in the green. We never saw our position in the green. Do you think our entry was ill-timed? No. In fact, when I go and I look at the setup, we went slightly green for a brief moment, but the setup here, as far as a trade setup, had everything we wanted. Let me zoom it in. I'm on a 60-minute chart here. Not on the daily. I'm on a 60-minute right here, but we saw it come off and create this downside action, breaking 70. We had examined it on the minute chart during that time. We watched that 70 mark be significant. We were able to kind of to sell that as we saw that 70 build. We had a great resistance area. We started to come down. In fact, yesterday morning, we finally got the breakdown and goes the other way, right? This is one and where I can't find a flaw in the setup, and it's one where when we got into the trade, we said, all right, we have major divergences in our indicators. We have strong volume on this down leg here in October. Okay, strong volume here. We now have a small volume relief rally, a dark cloud bear candle that typically marks the top. If anything, newbie, I would argue my stop is too tight. Okay? Not that the setup isn't great, but the stop is too tight because really the market set a brand new high 3 times during this trade, and COF hasn't been able to break out at all. I mean, it's underperformed the market tremendously, and so my argument here would not be that that the trade setup was wrong or ill-timed. My argument would really be that the stop is too tight, and time will tell. Time will tell on that. Okay. You do have MACD starting to turn positive here. We saw some heavy volumes. We saw some heavy volumes come into the close yesterday. And that was concerning. Yeah, hard to short this type of market. Yeah, I mean the short plays just there's no follow through. I mean some of the best short setups out there, and stuff that stuff that is just even in '06 and '07 when the market was going up, and some of the short setups that are out there that were out there during those times had much more follow through. Right now there's just not a heck of a lot of follow through. And that will shift. That will change. I expected it to change here during November because of some of the seasonal effects, and it still may happen. But so far we're not seeing a lot of that. MGM was a fantastic setup here as far as this bearish breakaway, the gap breakdown. And all right, market goes the other way, gives it enough of a lift to take it on higher here. Okay. Alrighty, I'm going to go through a couple stocks that were in my email here this morning to look at. Before I do that, TradeHound, let me go look at the SPY. Yes, kind of what we think about the SPY. Also, I don't know who it was, but somebody sent in a feedback asking us to put dates down in the message center. That is in the works. That'll be on the next release. The dates, I asked them to put in a feature that said, okay, 2 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago or an hour ago instead of the exact time. When they put that in, it created a couple conflicts on some other parts of the site, so they're working out the bugs, and that'll be up very shortly. Okay. All right, TradeHound, great, thank you. With the SPY, where do I see this going? I think upside's very limited. Can it go up? Will the S&P 500 go over 1800? Yeah, I mean we could see that. We could see a melt up here above that level. It would not be overly surprising, but I think there's a lot more downside potential than upside potential here. Okay, so we'll kind of see how that plays out. But would I be an aggressive buyer right here of the market itself? No. Individual plays, absolutely. Individual plays, there are some bull signals coming in and some good follow through on them. But overall, for the market, I wouldn't be going and buying some SPY. If anything, I'd be going out and picking up a little bit of something like an SDS or something that's a little bit depressed here. For some sort of relief to the upside. KM, Yelp. Yelp is one that I'd love to get short. Haven't been able to yet, We have all the downside action that we would expect to see through here. We have the breakdown. We got the breakdown below 60, 62. Again, no follow through as the market goes sets new highs. We have a small volume rally that tells me I'll probably get a chance to sell into this rally. Don't need to be overly aggressive of calling a top here. We'll likely get some sort of bearish engulfing, dark cloud action, some sort of hammer, some sort of candle that'll say, all right, the little flag here is done. If we don't get that, to see Yelp go and set new highs, that the market carries on, would not be out of the realm of possibilities. Cena here, to me, Cena, big gap up, big volume yesterday. I'd like to let everything kind of reset. If I'm going to play any of these Chinese internet stocks, my favorite here is Qihoo. And again, the timing on these, I'd let Qihoo pull back another buck or two, as these things can move $5, $6 in a day. I mean, you see a $20 range in a month on them, but I would prefer Qihoo over Cena at this point. Baidu is also in that group. Baidu broke above the 7-day moving average yesterday, above there today. With some of the breakdowns that we saw here in October, I'm very hesitant overall to get long here with them, but signals are positive enough that we could see some continued follow through there. Okay. Yeah, TLT is moving up higher here this morning. Busting above the 7 here a little bit ahead of Yellen, and the reason that TLT is moving higher here is because of Yellen's comments last night. Yellen talked about monetary policy remaining loose in the near term. Takes a little bit of tapering out of the equation. That's why we're seeing a nice little bounce in the TLT, nice little bounce in gold and in silver, and some of those other asset classes. Okay. OIH puts here. Yeah, I mean, right here, right at this exact point, no. Can I argue getting into puts here? No. Are you going against the trend? Look, OIH, and this is one that, take a look right in here. We get perhaps one of my favorite chart patterns. We get this little island reversal. We get a gap up into a new high, and then we trade flat for 3 days, and then we get a gap down. And these things historically are very strong as far as signaling pullbacks. And no, with the market setting new highs, pushing up here, we get maybe a little bit of a bearish action. Nothing too concrete over the beginning of this week. Get a little bit of bullish action yesterday. There's just nothing here. Fundamentally, some of these stocks, they still have room to roll, and they're not breaking down yet with oil breaking down. And so it just, I'd rather see another little breakdown on OIH or another little push up, something to 51.5. I think if we see OIH around 51.5, that would be a nice place to say, okay, let's short it there. Yeah, newbie, why do you trust Yellen for TLT but not SPY? I'm not quite sure I understand the question there as far as trusting Yellen. I don't really have any trust or distrust with Yellen. I'm just talking about why the TLT is up this morning. I'm not getting into it here. I wouldn't jump into it here. But the TLT is bouncing because of her comments, right? Because of her comments there. And her comments because of the nature of the Senate hearing and the nature of the run-up in the market yesterday, that they're going to have more of a bearing on bonds than they are on stocks in the short term. Today, during the Senate nomination, her comments will probably move stocks more than bonds. AUY, okay, breaking up here. It's kind of flatline down here around 9, breaking up above the 7. We're seeing this kind of across the board in some of these gold miners, gapping up above the 7s. For those that want to be very aggressive, bullish here with gold, this is a very interesting entry point. It's a very aggressive entry point, but it's one that has some technical merit. You are still facing a bit of a downtrend, so there's some risk with that. But overall, AUY specifically, to see this anything super dovish comes out of Yellen here in the nomination, which some of the initial remarks have been very dovish. We could see these gold miners continue on significantly higher here into Friday. Yeah, WDC, Western Digital, just a beautiful trend rider bull signal in here. Fantastic, right? I mean, we're talking about bullish consolidations, a bullish breakout, bullish volumes. You're talking about a stock that even from a fundamental standpoint, has some arguments to push up towards the $80 mark here with WDC, Western Digital. SanDisk is in a little bit of a similar situation, just not giving that trend rider bull signal just yet, but in a very similar bullish situation there. Okay, newbie. Yeah, you mean if QE continues, SPY can keep marching higher, right? Yeah, no, absolutely, it can. But I don't see SPY much higher. I don't, just from a valuation standpoint, just from a pure value standpoint on the market at this point is a little bit rich. Doesn't mean it can't keep going up. I mean, we could see the market go up another 7 to 10%. That could happen. I don't suspect we see that, but we will see whether we get a pullback first or we get some chasing first. We'll see some window dressing into the end of the year because the markets are up 25% on the year. But with that, it tends to be a little more stock specific, where broader market would tend to stay flat, but you will see a basket of the stocks that aren't tremendously overvalued continue to push higher. Okay, so something like Apple, for example, we're talking window dressing. We're talking about a market staying flat, but where a fund manager is going to roll into. Well, it'll look really good on their reports at the end of the year to say, "Hey, we own Apple." Okay, because of where some of the valuations are for that. Starbucks, it's not going to look as good. Why? Because some of the valuations on Starbucks now are nowhere near what they were back here in May and June. Okay, back in May and June, time clear. Yeah, TAN, the solar ETF. Uh, you ask a very interesting question. You say, how do you feel about the TAN? Um, Solar in general, I like to cuss. It's treated me well sometimes. It's treated me poorly sometimes. Overall, solar continues to be white hot. Timing it from an hourly standpoint or 15-minute standpoint, even a daily standpoint, can be a bit difficult. But overall, it continues to be white hot. There's not really any negative catalyst yet. Can some of the U.S. budget situation serve as a negative catalyst as we head into next year? Potentially. Okay, potentially. But for now, there's no real major breakdown here in the TAN. First Solar, one of the big components, continues to be white hot there. Overall, and CSIQ with their earnings, there's nothing bearish here to take from them. So it's really just kind of, hey, if you're jumping in, you're looking for an entry point and riding the trend higher. Yeah, TradeHound. If not SPY, what about IWR? Looking at something like mid cap shares or something like that. Look, In general, can the market go higher? It absolutely can. Are there any bearish signals? No, they're not. But has the market had a nice run? Has it seen a real nice run to this point? Is it, from a technical standpoint, ripe for a potential pullback? Sure. Is there any catalyst for that? No, not yet. Not yet. Instead of going out and buying, if you're going to go out and buy some SPY, or you're going to go out and buy some IWR, you're going to go out and buy some diamonds or something like that, that you're going to play bullish, okay, for the broader market. Pair that with some VIX calls. The VIX is dirt cheap right here. The options aren't very expensive on it. They're just dirt cheap, and it'll give you some of that protection in case there's something crazy that goes on. Those of you who are ultra bearish, loading up on some VIX here is one of the best plays that are out there. Max, you say time to start creating a position in IWM January puts. I'm not going to argue with anybody who does that. In fact, I would lean towards that. I would feel more comfortable in IWM puts at this point than call. But, that's not been what's been working during 2013. Okay? It's not been what's working. Tesoro continues to ride that upper Bollinger Band, and you've seen trade how volatile it's been intraday. I mean, we've seen $1.50 pullbacks, but it continues to truck higher. Price target above 55. If it starts to push above 55, I get a little nervous about it, and it may hit that this afternoon here on TSO, but a fantastic upside. And one of the things that will likely happen with Tesoro and what happens after some of these strong runs, it's not over, but it will have some sort of pullback that provides a nice re-entry point for it. And so, for someone like me who wanted to be in Tesoro for the 100K challenge, and it's not staying around 50, I'm gonna have to kind of wait for the pullback. Okay, for the pullback. There. Okay, KM Twitter. Okay, I'll be right back. I apologize. Okay, sorry about that. Twitter. I don't really have any opinions on Twitter overall. I mean, there's nothing with Twitter. There are a lot of debates. There are a lot of debates and different things that go on here with Twitter. The big argument with Twitter is valuations. Okay, valuations here on Twitter. Are they higher? Are they lower? Than what we see. Who knows? It's not something that I can really play. Options will open tomorrow. We'll see what the implied volatilities are on there. Okay, and see where that takes things. But in general, there's nothing that I would say, hey, let me enter Twitter for anything like that. Okay, so I'm just scanning through my emails here. I'm missing a couple tickers. I didn't write them all down. Um, okay, alrighty. Let's go take a look here at Facebook. Okay, we talked a little bit about Facebook yesterday, and that it probably is going higher here, and maybe there's some short opportunity somewhere around the $50 mark, potentially. We'll see. So far, there's nothing to react to the downside. I mean, there's nothing I would go after and say, all right, Facebook, let's trade this. Let's trade this lower at this point. Overall, from a bearish standpoint, there's not a whole lot of triggers out there. Okay. one of the things that, if you're looking for bearish triggers, one of the things that I like to do is just simply look for some of the stocks that are moving below or making fresh moves below the 7-day moving average on a given day. This morning we don't have a ton. We have 32 of them: General Electric, eBay, BTU, CLF, but none of these are probably overly significant. Perhaps CNX, yeah. I mean, nothing crazy out there, or extremely, something I would react to in a big way. Okay. All right. Google shot up yesterday, and continuing a little higher here this morning. It's in a very bullish position. The Bollinger Bands are contracting hard, which would suggest consolidation. But one of the reasons they're contracting hard is because they expanded so much on earnings. So really, the earnings for Google blew away the technicals. So to use technicals on Google here, or daily type technicals to set up a trade on Google, very difficult. Nothing that I'd be overly excited about. Amazon getting a nice boost here today after yesterday's bullish engulfing candle, getting some follow through. Continues to be a very bullish story here, right along and outperforming the rest of tech. I mean, there's going to be a little migration, right? I mean, you have Cisco missing their earnings and gapping down a whole lot. All right, you have fund managers that say, all right, I still have to be exposed in tech. Where am I going to go? Well, they're going to the Googles. They're going to go to the Amazons of the world to have some growth. Hewlett Packard getting ripped lower today is also going to help Google and Amazon and even Apple to push higher. This isn't a market where we're seeing mass money come out. We're just seeing rotations. So something like Hewlett Packard gets hit, that money actually just rotates somewhere else, and that's kind of what we're seeing. That's kind of what we're seeing overall. Okay. Yeah, there was a comment put in there about the trades. All the trade results are on the site in the results area. You can also go look at the last closed ones. For us here at Trader Minute, the last challenge, as I think everybody knows, we don't hide that at all, has not worked, and has really been a struggle. But that's one of the reasons why we have our risk reward where it was. I'm not sure where the 45 and 4 comes from. You can kind of look at the results, but that's well, absolutely ludicrous. But I wish you well. Okay. Let's take a look here. One of the areas that is ripe for a major type of a breakout is XLF. And yesterday I was asked about XLF, okay, and whether I expected the breakout to happen now or later. And I would expect the breakout to happen, but I would expect a little bit more consolidation. I wouldn't be surprised to see the XLF come down towards the 2050 area first, and then push up. This isn't something I'd be aggressively running after right now. If it starts to break 21, holds above 21, all right, there's plenty of time to pile in on that. Okay. Yeah, Wick, why do I think the gold miners haven't responded better today? Just simply because the overall weakness. Gold miners can be fickle. Sometimes they will be up 3% when gold's only up fractionally, and sometimes they'll be up real big or they'll be down real big when gold's only down fractionally. And sometimes we won't see any of the correlation there. Right now, it's just a little bit tough to trust some of the gold miners. The buyers of the gold miners have been burned several times after big up moves, so you're going to see a little bit more caution there. Okay, you're going to see a little bit more caution until you get a few days in a row where gold moves up. one day up for gold isn't enough to say, hey, let's pile into the miners. Gold starts to go up 2, 3, 4 days in a row, there'll be some confidence that will come into the miners. Okay. All right, yeah, some reversals going on today, right? Walmart, reversing to the upside after gapping lower. Some of the other things are reversing to the downside. Some things like Pandora, even PAY. Look, there's going to be in this market. There will be times when these high flyers they're just going to have a little bit of haircut come into them. The timing of that will be a little different. One of the things you'll notice on Pandora, there's not been any real volume coming into this at all. Okay, there's not been any volume there, but where do you say? I mean, Pandora above 28 continues to be very bullish. Tesoro had one of these ugly candles on it just a few days, or these types of pullbacks just 2 days ago, and has continued higher. And so, they can make you nervous, but you're kind of balanced. That you're running a balancing act there. Okay. P is coming off its highs. Would you recommend closing my call with some spread to bring credit into my trade? There are some of you out there I know love doing that type of a thing, where you'll go and take your call position, maybe go sell some calls on the other, above it, even below it. Generally, for me, if I just want to get out of a trade, I just exit. But I can't argue doing that, especially with the expense on those Pandora calls, the amount of implied volatility that's in there. Okay. Yeah, XLE just kind of sitting there, right? I mean, just keeps wanting to bounce between 87 and 86. Doesn't want to go either way. Ken, could Yellen's remarks cause a quick temporary spike in the VIX? They could. I don't expect it to. I think the market's looking at Yellen for, all right, what's happening long term, big picture, not what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't think there are a whole lot of people out in the market that really think the Fed is going to taper in December or January. I know there are a few analysts and critics out there that do make that argument, but overall, I don't. We're not getting any of that sense out of the Fed. All right, Tesla. Tesla puts here. The setup's very nice. The setup is very nice. Rolling down off of the 7. You can argue that Tesla's a little oversold, but breaking down below 137 is a big deal. You do have a little minor support between about 134 and 136, but you do have lower highs on that. If you're shorting Tesla here, I'd use 140 as a stop. Okay. The only reason I say that is because the chance of popping into 150, 155 is there. Do I think it does it? I think 50-50 shot, but these things can be wild movers, and so it's something I just put what you're willing to risk on it and run with it from there. Okay. Yeah, Aaron XL, he'll break that on Monday. Good deal. Alrighty. So as far as the broader market here this morning, what's happening overall? It's pretty flat. Some moderate volumes overall here on futures, but nothing major going on. The downtrend in oil continues, but one of the things to keep in mind with the downtrend in oil is it's really more with the USO or Brent crude, okay, than it is with the West Texas crude than it is with Brent. Notice Brent crude here. Notice it actually moving higher while West Texas continues to push lower. And a lot of this is because some of the announcement of the increased production here in the U.S. And so more supply with the U.S. oil going to take down the West Texas oil and going to be a little positive catalyst for the Brent crude. One of the reasons that Tesoro keeps going up, look at gas prices. So we see West Texas oil coming down, but gas prices moving up, and that directly benefits Tesoro, Valero, Phillips 66, and some of the other refiners that are out there. IOC, which just continues to truck higher there as well. Yeah, Carl. Walgreens, very interesting setup from a bullish side. Walgreens is one of those stocks where there's still some really good value. It's been consolidating. It's now pushing up in a trend rider bull signal. Very, very positive action here on Walgreens. Rite Aid, it's still stuck in its consolidation, but it is a very bullish consolidation for those that may want to get a little bit more aggressive there. Okay. Was asked if I'm going to make a trade today. I'm not. I'm going to wait till tomorrow to go out and make a trade, and for the new challenge. I've shown some of the things that I'm looking at. I will look at those more today here with you as well, and so we're well prepared for the coming trade here. I expect to make a trade on Friday, but if there isn't anything, I will not force something. But I fully expect there to be something. But again, we'll kind of see what the market gives us. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern, I'm going to be talking about the challenge. Talk about the philosophy, what the challenge is, what it isn't. For those of you new to the challenge or who may not understand the big picture, the perspective of it, I encourage you to be on for that. I will record that as well, so you can hear those comments as well. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on. Any questions? Let us know, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.